In this week's episode, I make some new friends. I shoot at a location where you might expect to see some hobbits. And then get to shoot by a nice, quiet river. Before finally battling the wind on top of Haytor Rocks. Good morning, everybody. So this morning, I'm off to a location that I have wanted to shoot for ages now. And today is the first day really that I've got the opportunity to do it. So where I'm heading is Dartmoor National Park. And there's about 4 or 5 different places there. But the first location that I'm going to, and I'm going to keep it as a surprise, is absolutely out of this world. And when I say out of this world, I really do mean out of this world. When you see it, you'll understand why I've used that phrase. Trust me, it's going to be worth the wait. So I've got about another couple of hours drive to go yet. And once I get there, we'll have another catch up. As you can see, I finally made it to Dartmoor National Park. The venue that I've got planned for is about a half a mile walk from the car park that I've just pulled up in. The only company I've got so far, there's lots of sheep. And on the way in, on the drive in, loads of Dartmoor ponies, but I don't think there's going to be any in this section. One thing I'd say about where we're going is, I said it was a magical place, and it really is. There's lots of legends attached to it. Everything from the wild hunt involving Odin, all the way to the devil unleashing hellhounds at night to capture unwary souls. Now, I'm not sure how much store I put in stories like that, but majority of the locals apparently won't go into this place at night time. So there's probably a lot of superstition attached to it, as there is with a lot of these places from stories passed down over the years. But you look at this scenery around here, it's just amazing. It really is. Well, this is Wistman's Wood, the place that I have wanted to come to photograph for probably a good 2 years since I found out about it. And it's one of those places, I would say, as a landscape photographer, that you just walk into it and your jaw hits the ground. It's just that beautiful. It really is. You can hear all the birds singing around me. They're not even bothered by me. But when you look, it's like something off a film set. And I think it's fair to say, and if I get the camera to follow me down, you'll see the extent of all these moss-covered rocks. It's fair to say that it's like something out of Lord of the Rings. You know, it would not be out of place on the set of Lord of the Rings, or something similar, or Harry Potter or something like that. You just expect it to be that sort of location. Now, when I arrived, I got the 1530 out and I started shooting on that. And what I was finding is, because there are so many things to photograph here, that there was too much and it was not isolating a subject enough. And one thing with photography like this is that, yes, the place is absolutely stunning, but in order to create a good image, you've got to have a subject that you can isolate. Now, there are, on the edges of this, there are isolated trees, and it might be that in a few minutes that I start looking at those, if I can't see anything within this wood itself. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and photograph some of the rocks leading up into the trees. If any of those shots turn out any good, then I will put them on the screen now. Right, so after a bit of hunting, I've managed to isolate a subject, which I think is actually quite nice. So what you've got is this tree here, which has got this really gnarly branches coming out. And as you can see, even on this camera, you can see all the shadow detail within the branches and the trunk. And then it comes out, and the leading line into it is this big, massive rock right here, which leads right up, and it slopes up into the trunk. It's really quite good. And you've got a little bit of middle ground, which is not too much and is just enough to catch the eye, but to draw into that trunk. And then obviously the eye follows up the trunk and follows around the branches. Now we've got a little bit of sky exposed through those branches, which is not ideal, but I think in post we can probably bring that down slightly, bring those whites down just so that they're not too bright and taken away from the actual subject itself. Photographing trees like this, especially when it's on a slope, is difficult because you need to try and isolate the tree without getting all of the sky behind it and then end up with it blown out. So what I try and do is get as much detail as possible within the shot, and if it means getting a little bit of sky in, then so be it. What I'll do is I'll show you on the back of the camera now the shot that I've lined up. So here you go, here's the back of the camera. And as you can see, there is that little bit of cloud that's still there. Luckily, it's quite dark cloud, so it might be quite easy to darken that down, and actually might well add to the image. And you can see here on the back of the screen, this is the rock. But nicely, it's got nice lighting to it, and it's got this line that just leads the eye up through the frame, through the middle of the frame, and then up into the trunk. And then obviously beyond that, you've then got these branches, as I say, that are just sprouting off the trunk. So off the front of it is that moss, which just dangles down in front of the trunk. And then you've got this little bit of dead foliage around it, which adds a nice contrast to the rest of the scene. So I've got it at 1/60th of a second at f9. Now the only reason I put it on the tripod is so I can show you guys, because filming this is a little bit difficult. It's at ISO 250 because, believe it or not, actually even with the light as it is, it's still quite dark in here. And I did try it with ISO 100, but it was just a little bit too dark. So if the shot turns out any good, I'll put it on the screen now. Well, that was Wistman's Wood, and it's one of the places that I'd say has been on my bucket list for quite some time. It's a location that's full of mystery and drama as well, I think. And there isn't many locations really like that have got that very ethereal look to them. And even when you're in there, it's a location that you think there is something about it. I'm not quite sure what. Now, I don't believe in all the mumbo jumbo superstition. The devil goes out with his hellhounds at night. But I do think that there's definitely something about that place. It's very, very peaceful. And the wind doesn't get anywhere near it. And you've got loads and loads of bird life in there. And it's just so quiet. So I'm glad I've managed to photograph it. I did take some more whilst I was in there. And if those ones have turned out any good, then I will put them up on the screen right now. So, location number 2. And this is Dartmoor, where the two river darts meet up, funnily. Now I've had a little walk along here. I've been here before a few times. And there is quite a lot of debris in the river. And normally, with river, if you're going to shoot fast flowing rivers, you want something of interest in it. Whether that's a little bit of foliage or what. It's always good to have that. Now, the advantage with this place is that there's plenty of rocks within the river itself. So it's always quite a nice place to shoot. But it's just a matter of trying to find the right part of the river to shoot. Now, I did see one earlier on. I think it was down here. I might have just walked past it. It's just down here. And if you look out there, you'll see that flat rock in that 3 on the left hand side. So you can get out to that quite easily. Just walk across and shoot up, and let's see what we get. So I'll come back to you in a minute. Okay, so if you can hear me over the sound of this river, I am basically perched out on that rock that I showed you earlier on, the flat rock. Now, it's a bit sketchy at the moment because the tripod is sort of extended out to the edges of that rock. And I'm trying to balance myself on the rock. So there's always potential for a disaster to happen. But hopefully that won't happen. Now, what I've done is I've set up a shot. And I've put the 2470 Tamron on the D850. And I tried to take it with like a 1 second exposure, and it sort of worked, but then I wasn't really happy with it. The highlights were looking a little bit blown out, so I decided to stop down the ISO to 64, and then I got the 6-stop neutral density filter. So now I've got a shutter speed of 13 seconds, and I think the aperture is about f14 at the moment, or f11, sorry. It was f14, but it's now f11 at 13 and ISO 64. So what I'll do is I'll show you on the back of the camera what the setup looks like. So that is the shot that we're looking at the moment, if you can see it. So you've got these 2 rocks out to the left hand side of the frame, or right hand side of the frame, sorry. And then you've got the gnarly tree on the left bank, which does look really good, I have to say. And sorry, this thing is going a little bit potty at the moment. There we go. So yeah, you've got this gnarly tree on the left bank, which looks really good. And then you've got these rocks, which are moss coloured, and you've got two there, and then you've got one right in the middle of the frame as well. And then obviously the river and the reflections coming off of that. So it's 13 seconds, ISO 64 f11. If the shot looks any good, I'll put it on the screen right now. So we've moved on from dark meat now, and as you can see, the hat's out, which means that it's got cold. Now I'm trying to find the next location, and as you can see, I am right up on top of the moor. And if I swing you around this way, up there, that's Haytor Rocks, was what I was about to say before the microphones did the proverbial and cut out. I think this may be the time to reassess my choice of microphones and look at alternatives. Anyhow, this is why you've got my voiceover right now. So what I will say about Dartmoor is the fact that for the unwary and the unprepared, it can be quite dangerous. The weather is very prone to changing very quickly. It is renowned for thick fog in certain conditions, and that, if you don't know where you're going, can prove problematic. More so is the fact that after severe rainfall you can get areas like this which become quite boggy. Now at the face of it, it looks like water sitting on the top and you think you just plough through it. Actually, this becomes so waterlogged that underneath just becomes like a big suctioning mess. And if you go into a location with lots of water like you see there lying on the surface, sometimes, not always, but sometimes you can end up sinking down to your waist in that, and it can be extremely difficult to get out. So if you don't know Dartmoor very well, or you're a little unsure about navigating your way, sometimes it can be better to travel with somebody else. So with that in mind, hopefully we can restore normal service with some audio. Right, so I've done a couple of shots of a lone tree. In fact, I'll show you the tree that I'm down here. Nearly fell over. That I was to the right of that, basically directly in front of it, looking out across the valley. And if we can zoom in, you'll see those two rock formations right there. So I was trying to photograph those with it. So if that shot has come out any good, I shall put that one on the screen right now. And yet again the microphones failed, so you've got my voiceover again. Once I got to the top of Haytor Rocks on the way back, the wind really picked up and it was a battle to even try and stand up. So I ended up recording the next section sitting down, and any photographs after that were without the use of a tripod. So the wind hasn't eased off. There's no way I could put a tripod up to show you guys what I've been doing. So I've been taking a whole series of bracketed shots as the sun is going down. Now the sky is really starting to take off. The colour's starting to come into it. So I'm going to continue to work. But I doubt whether I'm going to be able to give you much of a show. Sorry, I'm not even looking at the camera. I doubt whether I'm going to be giving you much of a demonstration on the back of the camera, because it is just too windy at the moment. This wind up here at the moment, I've had to sit down to try and record this so you can have some chance of hearing, and you can probably see the wind blowing the gimbal. That's how strong it is at the moment. It really is just absolutely howling a gale across here at the moment. So I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to shoot some more shots of it, and then I'll probably give you a final update once I get back to the car. I'll see you in a few minutes. Right, well, I finally made it back to the car in one piece. I can tell you that wind was absolutely howling across the top of that tour, and at one stage I thought some of my kit was going to get blown off the top. It was that strong. The walk down was eventful. Again, it was just blowing, and it picked up. Even when I got back to the car, it's picked up quite a lot. The next video I'm thinking may well be a coastal video. Keep your eyes peeled. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, as always, get out there, get shooting, get practicing, and enjoy it. And if you have enjoyed today's video, then please hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, then please hit the subscribe button. And I will see you next time. Take care.